Welcome, ESPN 1700 AM. It's the Real Estate Radio Hour with your host,
Big Mac David McKelvin,
and myself, Ryan White. This is a special infirmary episode. We are both kind of nursing a cold.
Well, let's hope you stay well. I mean, it's wet out there right now.
It's wet out there, so if voice cracks, I end up sneezing or sniffling during the show. That's what's going on, hoping to make the best of it.
Somebody's going to have to take your microphone next.
They might. In studio with us today, repeat offender, third time, Mike Bosworth. His website, MikeBosworthLeadership.com. He's a co-founder of Story Leaders, and in 2013, he founded Mike Bosworth Leadership, where he provides executive coaching and workshops with the Story Seekers platform. And of most recent, well, actually, you have 3 books, right? Three books. What Great Salespeople Do, Solution Selling, and Customer-Centric Selling.
Correct.
And I went to one of your workshops, and we're going to really get into what you do there, but you're taking a unique spin on this that I think is really valuable. And previously, when people think of sales training, we think of the guy that's trying to make the big software sale to a large company that's 40 or so, but really, we're taking a spin on this that really applies to the youth of today.
Yes.
And go ahead and go into that a little bit.
Well, I've been exposed to a number of young people lately that are really struggling with trying to find any job, much less their dream job in this tough economy. And I recalled when I was talking to some of these young people that back in the 90s, when I was doing a lot of solution selling open workshops in Del Mar at the DoubleTree, back then my kids were in college, and I ended up putting my kids and their friends and my nieces and nephews all through that training class. And when they graduated, they went out and got jobs just like that. Now, I will say that it was easier back then. But I remember my niece, Kim Bosworth, she got a sales job for a software company, and by March, she had her whole year's quota.
Wow.
She was a killer. And so I started, and then a couple of years ago, the UCLA Alumni Association had me do a webinar because they were pumping out all these MBAs, and these MBAs have multiple page resumes with lots of bullet points about all the things they've done, but they're really struggling trying to land a job. And a lot of really talented young people today are underemployed or unemployed. And so I got to thinking, how can I take the Story Seekers methodology and help some of these young people? And I got to thinking about returning military because, you know, I did my year in Vietnam and came back, and I've known a lot of returning military who've also struggled to integrate themselves back into society and find some job that's fulfilling. And I guess, I mean, there's so many people who go to quote-unquote work every day just so they can do what they love to do at night, which is play music or write or whatever, but work is really work, and it's a small minority of people that pop out of bed every day because they love what they do. They're doing what they were made to do, and they love it. And so I got to thinking back to when I was in college at Cal Poly Pomona, and I'd been in the military, went on the GI Bill, so luckily for me I didn't have a bunch of student debt. But I had a chance to interview with a startup division of Xerox on campus, and it took me 3 months to get that job, and I had to take the bottom level job, which is the help desk back then, but I still got into my dream company. And so I'm trying to project myself and put myself in the shoes of some of these young people today. And what could I teach them to help them target, get an interview with, and nail that interview and get a job offer from a dream company, a dream job, rather than just settling for some job they hate to do just because they have to pay the rent. And we're going to be talking about paying the rent a little later in the program, I guess.
If you're just tuning in, you were listening to Mike Bosworth from Mike Bosworth Leadership. And he's actually using some of the sales techniques, the soft sales techniques that he employs, he talks about in so many of the books that you've written, which is really to tell a story and have the people who are listening find themselves in that story and find themselves wanting the services that you have to offer. So really, you're using what you teach.
Yes, and if you think about it, people make emotional decisions. As human beings, we do what we want to do. We do what our limbic brain wants to do. And then we use our human brain to start putting logic around what we've decided to do so we can defend ourselves as being rational to our friends, our families, our bosses, our peers, or whatever, because as humans, we all want to be perceived as rational and logical. But we all pretty much make the emotional decision precedes the logical decision. And offering somebody a job is a huge emotional decision. And young people today, Ryan and you and I were talking about this before the show, when I was in college, I got no training on how to go out and interview. And you, in both a bachelor's and a master's program, told me you got no training on how to go out and get an interview. So what I'm doing for my next two public workshops, one in Solana Beach in December, is I'm offering millennials and returning military the ability to come for half price. And if you came as a regular salesperson to my workshop, one of the portions is we teach you how to build and tell the story of the organization you represent. But do it where you're hitting the emotional brain of the listener, not just the logic. But if you're a millennial and you're looking for your first job, we're going to have you build the story of the company you want to represent, which means you're going to have to do some research. But in essence, what I want to arm these young people with is how to, quote-unquote, cold call and target a company that they'd like to work for, and how to find out who the key decision makers are, how to get an interview, and then when they are on that interview, tell the interviewer the story of why their company appeals to them, tell their own personal story, and then use the story tending techniques we teach in the workshop to tend the story of the interviewer and play it back to them. And I truly believe that if you give me a typical college graduate with reasonable skills, that in 2.5 days we can arm them to go out and get their dream job.
It's a really unique approach, although I haven't had to go out and look for an engineering job in 10 to 12 years. I remember when I did, I took more of a shotgun approach to it, meaning that I got a degree in mechanical engineering. I went to Craigslist or Monster or wherever I happened to be, whoever was posting a job wanted for an engineering job, I submitted a resume and hoped to get a call back. And again, I would call that the shotgun approach. And really, you're describing more of a sniper approach, that where and it really goes further towards being in love with what you do, so you're excited to get out of bed. And I gotta be honest, I landed at some companies when I was not excited to go out of bed, probably because I took the shotgun approach. But if I was able to identify a specific 1, 2, 3 companies, learn a lot about them, and enough so that I could have a very high probability of getting a job there through the interview process, which is really what you're teaching,
yes.
I may be in a different profession today.